Hello and welcome to Emotional Savvy, the Relationship Help Show. I'm Dr. Rhoberta, Shaler, the Relationship Help Doctor, and I want to bring you the greatest things that I can to help you have the most insights about how to have the best life. And you know that because maybe you're returning to hear more podcasts, so something has been of value to you, and more value will certainly be added today as I talk with my guest, Dr. Marcia Reynolds. We're going to have a great conversation about her book, OutSmart Your Brain. That's exciting, right? You want to know how to do that. And we have so many insights for you. So stay tuned. Welcome to Emotional Savvy, the Relationship Help Show. I'm Dr. Rhoberta Shaler. If you're ready to increase your confidence in conversations and conflict, deepen your self-awareness, expand your connectedness, and enrich your relationship with yourself and other humans you care about, and even those you wish you didn't, you're in the right place. Enjoy today's episode. Welcome. Today my guest is Dr. Marcia Reynolds. I'm so excited. We've waited for this interview and to get the time because Dr. Marcia Reynolds travels out of the United States nearly every month because she's busy on boards and doing things in Russia and China and all over the place. So let me tell you a little bit about her before we start. She's going to show you how to become the master of your choices and not the victim of your reactive brain. Yeah, we all have one of those if we're not awake, right? We have a reactive brain. She's the president of her own coaching and consulting and leadership development firm called Co-Visioning. And she delivers those programs, as I said, worldwide. And she's, in addition to a doctorate in organizational psychology and 2 master's degrees in communication and adult learning, she's a master's certified coach. In fact, one of the first, and was instrumental in bringing all of that to light in the world and shining light on what it is to actually be a master certified coach. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Marcia Reynolds.
Thank you, Rhoberta. It's good to be here.
It's so good to be here. I am glad you think so too, because I'm excited to have this conversation. I love the title of one of your books, OutSmart Your Brain, How to Master Your Mind When Emotions Take the Wheel, because yeah, we want to feel our emotions. Yes, we want to be in touch with that, but we don't want to be out of balance, do we?
No, and your brain will throw you out of balance many times if you aren't, fully aware and can manage that.
Yes, and we want to be conscious of what's going on. So that's why this is a great conversation for us to be having, because we need to be awake and aware and alive and alert. And that's the opportunity of becoming more and more conscious, more aware every day so that we can actually have the best life possible.
Yeah.
And yeah, we throw that phrase around, have the best life possible, isn't it? In so many people's marketing. But what do you think it really means to have the best life possible?
Well, it's an interesting thing when you're talking about emotions. We're talking about the best life based on our inner state. And most people, honestly, aren't aware of what's going on inside of them on a regular basis. We recognize big fear and big excitement, but the little emotions that really master our brains constantly, we're not aware of. And so when that happens, we don't have choice. There was this book written by a neuroscientist called Free Will, and he questioned, do we really have free will? And he said, if you do not practice this regularly, you don't. And so your brain creates the environment that you live in based on how you're feeling in the moment. But when we can recognize what's going on, then we do have choice. And I can either look out my window and say, oh, it's really awfully hot and humid outside, or I could say, I'm so grateful I get to live in this beautiful place where I have this mountain outside my window, and I'm just, my life is so rich. And that's what makes that wonderful life that we live in.
Mm-hmm. And I love that idea of free will, because we also throw that around. Oh, well, it's your choice.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, of course it is your choice. But if you're not awake, the choices that you make will be patterned, and they'll be pre-patterned, and you'll be going down the path that was set out for you, perhaps even in childhood. I know with my work, I'm always helping people look to see where the patterns came from. I'm sure you do too.
Mm-hmm.
And why would we accept this? And I liked what you said in when I was reading your book, Outsmart Your Brain, because I wondered, and it bears on what we're talking about now. Why do you think we are willing to settle for a safe and suffocating world?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Yeah. Isn't that? Well, it's an interesting thing because those are two concepts, safe and suffocating. So it's almost as if we will tolerate uh, a suffocating, horrible environment
Mm-hmm.
just because it's safe. So why people don't step out of uh, jobs, relationships, things that are suffocating them, taking the life out of them, is not only uh, is it questioning, safety, but you start to question, who will I be if I change this?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and will I be successful? Will I fail? And those questions, we don't consciously ask them, but they're there, and then they take over our choices.
And that kind of leads to your other book, all the way, that was quite unintentional, which is that we're almost comfortable living in the discomfort zone,
Yeah,
right?
it's like we don't even recognize it. Isn't that amazing, though, Rhoberta, that how much pain uh, tolerance we have, just because we want to stay safe. When I coach people, one of my favorite questions is, so what are the consequences, honestly, about you making the choice? And it's amazing that people don't even think about it. It's like, well, I haven't thought about it. And then the question is, well, how likely? I mean, what's the worst case scenario, and how likely is that going to happen? We catastrophize everything until we put it out in front of us and say, oh, well, here's what I want to do, and here's, this could happen, this
Right.
could happen, and also this could happen. But we don't do that well when we try to sort it out in our own brains.
No. And, using the word tolerating, my work is about helping people recognize and stop tolerating emotional abuse. And it's the same thing, whether it's physical self-care, emotional, spiritual, mental self-care, no matter what it is, the question remains the same. Do you believe that you deserve to have a different way of responding to life so that you will then feel differently?
Well, that's so important. That do I deserve this? What is my worth? And we're awful. And well, this is good enough. How lucky I am to have this. So I'm going to stay with this because. We're also master rationalizers, so that I'm going to stay with this because, for the children, because it doesn't work now. When I left my last job, I was starting my business, and I knew I needed to end my relationship because it was suffocating me. He was just getting angrier and angrier and squeezing the life out of me. And people kept telling me, well, you can't do both, start a new business and end your relationship.
Oh, yes, you can.
Yeah, I believed it. I'm like, okay, I'll wait, wait a while. And then finally I was talking to my coach, and I said, I have to end this. And he says, okay, give me the date. And I went, oh, and so I did. It was that easy, and I didn't even realize it.
Right. And all of a sudden it was real. Like there's a date.
Right?
Yeah.
Instead of, oh, I have to put it off till this, and I have to wait till this. And, Set the date.
Yeah. Well, you use the term rationalize, how we'll rationalize things. I think we also justify them in the same way, like,
Yes.
okay, I'm doing this because,
Hmm.
um, and and it's okay because, and then we give 20 or 30 other statements to say that I can make a great case for staying in this, even though it's hurting me. And then we get to the deserving question, and the
Hmm.
answer is, oh, but they deserve something too.
Yeah.
Deserve me to be sacrificing myself here on the altar and being cut open and bleeding because they haven't had anything in their life. Not my circus, not my monkeys, folks. Right?
Isn't that amazing, though, how much we gain from being the martyr as
Yes.
well? You
And if you bring it up, that sounds a bit like a martyr. Is that what you're saying? Oh, no, no, I am just a compassionate,
Yeah,
empathic
yeah,
person.
right.
Right. And this whole thing, Marcia, I'm really interested in your take on this. Um, because I work with the partners, the exes, and the adult children and coworkers, and all of people that I call hijackals, the relentlessly difficult, toxic people in life,
Hmm.
I will often have people say, well, um, I understand that they need empathy, and I am an empath. And when Judith Orloff kind of put this out there and made us into empaths, a part of me went, oh, that's okay. And then a part of me went, ah, no, not so okay. And so I see in all these groups on Facebook and everything where people are saying, oh, but I'm an empath, as though that's like, woohoo, I won the lottery, instead, instead of, oh, maybe I should have a
Yeah.
look at that. What do you think?
Well, Brene Brown did a great little video on the difference between sympathy and empathy.
Right.
And I actually wrote a Psychology Today post on when too much empathy is not good for you.
Yeah.
And, there's a difference between, what I'm trained as a coach is to receive what you're giving me, to, to see that you're having an emotion, you're going through this reaction, and I understand it. And then I process it quickly through me and give it back to you and just share with you, is this your experience? And that's empathy, is that I can understand your experience. But the moment that I live your experience,
Yes.
then all of a sudden I'm living your drama and taking on the responsibility for what you have. And I think people confuse that I'm an empath with being just what's the word, a sponge.
Yeah. Well, it's the old thing, if your friend is in a sinking boat, do you jump in with them?
Yeah,
Maybe
right.
not. Maybe that's not the wisest thing to go down
Hmm.
with them. And that's the fear in this thing. And somehow there's righteousness in it. Somehow there, oh, it's such a
Hmm.
good thing.
Hmm.
I think people need to be really careful about that.
Yes, I'm so sensitive. Yeah, that's
Yes, you know,
absolutely.
and then we have this phenomenon of highly sensitive people, and then that spills over into the empath world, and then, but it's my nature. Well, who developed that nature? Uh,
Hmm.
who's in charge of that nature?
Yeah.
Those are awarenesses, aren't they, Marcia?
Yeah.
Like, I'm aware that I have a
Hmm.
tendency to be overly empathetic, perhaps might
Hmm.
be something that comes up. Is that healthy for me? Does it help other people? Is that how I want to be? Is that how I want to self-identify?
Yeah.
Important questions.
Well, and I think one of the main questions you asked in that group is that helpful for them? Because we think it's being helpful, but how is it helpful? Because we aren't then helping them move forward. We're just saying, oh, it's okay, you feel that way. Well, that's not helpful. Then they stay stuck. But if I don't get stuck in your emotions, and I can help you think through it and to see what possibilities you really have, because I'm not stuck in your drama, I can do that. And that's far more helpful than for me living in that space with you.
Yes.
Mhm.
Oh, such a great conversation. I'm talking to Dr. Marcia Reynolds. If you want to learn more about her, go to outsmartyourbrain.com and then do a Google search and find out all these wonderful articles and things that she's provided for us so that you can know more about what she's talking about in more depth about that subject. So why do you think it is that we do what I kind of think of as pseudo self-care? It's not wrong, it's not bad, it's a good start, but we kind of think it's the whole package when it's really the tip of the iceberg. So we may go out and get a massage and a manicure, but we don't address or manage what it is that caused us to be in this situation. We're just looking for relief from it. What do you think about that?
Oh, absolutely. Actually, at the end of OutSmart Your Brain, there's this whole self-care checklist. And it looks at not just the physical. I mean, you're just talking about the physical manifestation of all the stuff that's going on, but all the things that trigger our emotions, and then our muscles to tighten, and our immune system to weaken. Things like difficulties in our relationships and the stress that causes, financial problems, and then there's that sense of well-being, and are we taking care of ourselves? And I learned this way back in my coach training, that if I don't take care of myself, I can't be a good coach. And so things like, even am I sleeping on a good mattress? Do I have good sheets? I mean, these are things we don't think about, but yet they affect our sleep, affects our capacity for being with others in a really healthy way, how we eat, how we exercise. We have to take care of our inner state, and our well-being. You mentioned earlier our spirituality, whatever that faith is, that we have something we believe in and hold on to. All of that is critical. And if you have that in place, you're going to have less stress in your body, and paying all that money for constant massages.
Yes, and for me, because rather than being a coach, I'm a therapist, so I look at it from the hat that I have on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm all for the massages and the manicures and the time out, and the saying to yourself by doing that this is a good thing. But then let's always, and I'm sure you do this too, let's look at why do I need this? And am I doing a band-aid approach by having these things? Am I forestalling further damage? Or am I actually ready and willing to look at the underlying things? Like, I had a coach come into my practice last night, and she's very well educated and all on top of it. But she said, I've I've read your books. I think I listened to every podcast episode, she said. And so I have been waiting to actually work with you to heal, and then from that healing place be able to create healthy patterns.
Mm-hmm.
And I was applauding wildly, because she was saying, basically, in our context of our conversation, the manicures and the massages are not cutting it, because all they're doing is not enough to mean that I don't need more manicures and more massages and all of that. I am really willing to look and go through the process. And sometimes it's difficult, arduous, sometimes we don't like it, but that I'm worth that. That's the real
Yes,
self-care, isn't it?
absolutely. That I'm worth that. And if you do that, then you can truly enjoy the massage. It's not working out the pain. It's about then, another human that's taking care of you,
Yeah.
and the pleasure in that, and that I can have nice toes in the summertime. you know and part of that is because my work is really enriching, and I like to give myself that gift, and so it becomes a gift, and not because I have to take care of myself because everything is
Right.
horrible.
It's not a job. It's not a
Mm-hmm.
should. If
Mm-hmm.
anything becomes a should, it's worth having a look at, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, I've written about that too, that word should. It's like, who says?
Who are they?
Yeah. Oh, right. Are you letting the shoulds run your life?
Yeah, that's right. And you know that other phrase that everybody finds so amusing is don't let other people should on you.
Yeah, shit on you, right?
Right.
Well, and there's another word that I'm always listening for because once I hear it, I know that the fear is going to show up right afterward, and it's the word but.
Yes, of course.
Yes, I'm going to
Yeah.
do that,
Yeah.
but
I can say
there's that
the
rationalization. Yeah.
right. I can say the good part that I know I want to be true, and
Mhm.
then I'll give you the rationalization and justification why it can't happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's just take that part of the sentence off and look at this.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was again with the client last night, and something I usually do, somebody will say something. For instance, here's an example. A client said to me last week, we were about three-quarters of the way through the session, so we churned up a lot of things. And I said, tell me how you see yourself in that relationship.
Mm.
And she started to stumble, and then she said, well, I've always been the caretaker of others' emotions.
Oh.
Right?
Wow. Now there's an identity. Why, clear identity and always, the word always. So as far back as she can remember. Wow, how entrenched is that?
Yes, and she's only 25 years old.
Oh my.
And so I was like, yay,
Yeah.
because that's come out at 25. Many people don't see it till 45. They may not do anything about it till 55. And
Mhm.
here she said, no, I can't believe I said that. I said, well, I wrote it down. I
Yeah.
will not forget that.
Yeah.
If that's the way you want to identify, oh, no, I don't. She said, okay, great.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this whole phenomenon of positive self-talk
Mhm.
and how trendy it is, how trendy it's been. Now all the affirmation things, everything, um, all of that. Why do you think it's not effective?
Yeah. That was one of the things that came out when they finally were able to scan the brain and see how we process information. Prior to that, we thought, oh, I think a thought, and then it permeates my being, and that's how I act. So if I change my thoughts, I change my behavior. And what was discovered was like, no, everything that you perceive and bring in travels through two emotional centers before it ever hits the brain. So it's totally filtered and uh, d- uh, disrupted before we actually have the thought. So the example I always give is while you're driving and you're out in traffic and you're late for an appointment, and it's like you didn't expect this, and where did these people come from, and you're totally impatient, and you tell yourself, oh, be patient. How long will that last? So you must shift your emotions first. It's not I think, therefore I am. It's I feel, therefore I think, therefore I am. So
Mm,
if I put on some music, or if I've got something that reminds me of someone I love, or for me it's my cat. And then again, look at the beautiful blue sky that I have, then I get to live in, and I start to shift to feel those emotions, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, whatever, I'll be late. So it's we give too much power to our thoughts when it's the emotions that allow us to shift the thoughts,
right.
that we can then master how we respond to our situations.
Yes, and which brings up the understanding that what you want is informative.
Mm-hmm.
Right. If
Yeah.
if if I say to a client, well, where would you like to be at the end of our sessions together?
Mm-hmm.
And they go, oh, I don't know. I just want
Yeah.
out of where
I
I
just want
am.
to, yeah. Yeah.
So that's not as
That.
helpful as saying, this
Mm-hmm.
is what I'm moving toward, which is the phrase I always use with
Yeah.
them. What are you moving toward? Let's,
That's
let's
great.
let's just draw a box around that so we know what our target is, and it's
Mm-hmm.
movable, it's changeable. We might have different ideas as we work together, but what
Yeah.
are we moving towards?
I love that.
Yeah, I have a new podcast starting in September. It's called Focus on Forward.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
yeah, Fuel for a Fearless Future.
Mm-hmm.
And and I think that it's really important for us to focus on forward as well as do the work that, I help people do, which is look backward and come up to the moment. But, and the work that you do, which is where are you and where do you want to go? It's so important. And I think that this brain work that you were talking about, when you actually realize that it's not doing constantly affirming what it is you want, it is going back and realizing, well, how do I feel about that? Where did it hit me in a feeling center? And then what thoughts did it spawn? And what happened from there? And then how did I feel? And the back and forth movement. Is that how you see it?
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting question. That people don't even know what they want to create, or what it is they really want. And I say that when I teach coaching, that, people often don't know what they want, that it comes out within the conversation. Just like you said with the woman who said, well, I've, been an emotional caretaker all my life. And she's like, that's that breakthrough moment that we don't do on our own, that it requires that inquiry process, like you provide, for the people who work with you, to we call it peeling the onion, to really look, and take off this stuff to see, oh, that's what you really want, and what does that look like for you in this life you're creating? So they may not be able to see the full vision in the future, but that's why I like your forward question. And that's so interesting, because there's out of a university in Cleveland, they've written this book, and they said all coaching the people must have a clear vision of where they're going in order to be coached. And I'm like, sometimes they don't.
They need to be coached to find the vision of where they want to go.
And if you say that has to be at the beginning of the session, then you're limiting. And then they'll come up with something that's not real for them. It's what they should be doing.
Yeah. And how they want to please you by having an answer to your question.
Yes. Right. Pleasing the therapist, pleasing the coach, that often goes on. Especially, I'm going to track it back, when you take on their emotions too much and they see you're in discomfort, then they're going to want to take care of you.
And at that moment, a wise coach or a wise therapist or mental health professional says, let's turn that around and go back there for a moment. No, we're not going to go there. So these are difficult conversations we have with ourselves, but sometimes we have to have difficult conversations with other humans. And of course, with my work, I'm always dealing with people who are daily having conversations with other difficult humans. So therefore, a difficult human is going to often create a difficult conversation. So I know that you have some wisdom about how to prepare for a difficult conversation. And I just want to get that in before we end our time together.
Sure. Right. This came out of my research for the Discomfort Zone, my last book. And, there's part of it is recognizing that if you're going to have an effective, difficult conversation, then the person has to feel safe with you. Otherwise, you're just going to get into arguments and defensiveness. So you have to create a safe environment. And the first thing is choosing how you want to feel. So you can't go into this conversation angry, disappointed, upset with them, because they're going to feel that energy and resist you from the start. So can you feel curious and care? Can you feel calm and courageous? Choose 1 to 2 words that you want to feel before you go in. And then you want to be clear, so there's emotional intention, emotional tone, and the intention of the conversation. And that comes back to, what is it you want to create? Are you trying to change the person? Well, that's not going to work. Are you trying to help them achieve a goal or achieve something you want together? Be clear on what is that would be inspiring, or at least desirable for the person you're with. What's the goal you both want? And the third one is, sometimes the toughest is, do you respect the person? Can you hold them in high regard? I mean, once you lose respect, it's difficult to have an effective, uncomfortable conversation. So it's emotional tone, the intention of what we're trying to create together, and high regard and respect.
Beautiful and simple to remember because it's your preparation.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe there's a few other little bits that we need to consider, which is the timing. I mean, sometimes people try to
Totally.
have difficult conversations and they're both still in anger arousal.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
know, when I'm teaching people about anger and how their anger works and how the brain does that and how the body reacts to anger arousal, and we think about when we're afraid, the body then goes into fainter or flee or flight, and the autonomic system then says, oh, in order to be safe, I need to bring all the blood down to keep the heart and lungs going. And we forget that that blood came from somewhere, not only our hands and feet, but it came from, yeah, our brain. And so I often, I used to teach anger management classes for the Superior Court. And I'd often say to them, like Ashley Brilliant did, when you're angry, you'll make the best speech you'll ever regret.
I love that. I love that. That's
Yes. So because you're brain dead, you're somewhat brain dead
right.
because you're depleted. The
Right.
oxygenation of the brain is not
Mhm.
allowing you to be nearly as clever as you think you're being,
Right.
nearly as clear as you think you're being. So
Yeah.
timing is a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
No, maybe listeners need to know this, that if you have an altercation with someone and you get hot under the collar, or whatever you know as really mad,
Mm-hmm.
do you know that just if you were able to go off in a quiet, darkened room and just breathe and lie down and everything, do you know it can take up to 2 hours for your body to come back to where it's resting? two
Wow.
hours. And then how many times do we have an argument with somebody and then we think we've cooled off and we go in, well, we should continue talking about this. And timing is a really big part of this as well.
Yeah.
And it ties into your number three, which is that positive regard for the other person, the
Mm-hmm.
respect. There's a spiritual book that I like, and I don't like everything about it, but one thing that particularly stood out that I did like, and it said, who's ever most sane at the moment is responsible for the relationship.
Oh, I love that. That's great.
So if you're out of your anger arousal and you see that your partner is still in it, then you can be sane enough to say, I don't think this is a good time to continue this
Right.
conversation. Let's
Yeah.
talk about it tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So timing is a big issue too. And for us to want to have positive conversations that are effective conversations
Mm-hmm.
about difficult things, we need to prepare. We need to be on top of it. And part of knowing how to express what you need and want, and knowing how to give voice to what's okay with you, is knowing your boundaries and expressing them, clarifying them, and
Mm-hmm.
then maintaining them. So I know you have a model for boundaries, and I hope you'll share that with us.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I actually learned this as a feedback model many, many years ago, and it has 3 steps, and it's called the AID model, AID.
Mm-hmm.
And it starts with being very clear about the action that the person did or the words that they said. Um, like, for example, uh, when you interrupted me and forcefully gave me your opinion uh, in a long way, it totally shut me down. So you give the behavior, but then you give the impact. It totally shut me down, and I just didn't feel as if I was a part of this conversation anymore.
Mm-hmm.
The more important part of this is the impact, not the behavior. And oftentimes we say, you did this and you shouldn't do it, but we don't say the impact. Or when you say that, you recognize that it hurts me.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the action and then the impact. And then set the boundary, make the request. So it's action, impact, desired behavior. So in the future, what I would really like is if you could wait until I finish my idea before you give me yours, I'm more than happy to listen to yours. But if we're going to really have a conversation, we need to hear each other out. So that would be the request. So the desired behavior is the request you want to make. And so you need to think before you say this, what is the request that I want to make based on the impact of the behavior that they did? And that will help you set the boundary.
Great information. Do you know who created that model?
No, do you know?
No,
The
I
way you
don't.
said it, it sounds like you knew.
No, I don't. But it's very similar to some of the things I do too that I have created. And, one of the big questions that I tell people to ask themselves is, what do I want as a result of this exchange?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Pre-pace what the conversation is
Yes.
going to, the direction of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Because even if maybe I'm in a little anger arousal, and I can stop and take a deep breath as I'm listening to the other person and say, what do I want as a result of this exchange? Where would I like to be 5 minutes from now in this relationship conversation? That you can feel so much better about yourself when you'll do that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Just so much better.
Absolutely.
And I really want to encourage everyone who's listening. First of all, of course, you're listening to Dr. Marcia Reynolds, and I want you to read her books, OutSmart Your Brain and The Discomfort Zone. You can learn more about that. She has a free gift for you, which is an ebook. It's called From the Pits to the Peak, A New Look at Making Life Changes. You can find the link to that in the show notes below. So it's absolutely free and available to you. It's her gift to you. So that's important for you to take advantage of. If all that we're saying is of interest, read her books. You can always find her at outsmartyourbrain.com, because these things are so available to you, right? You read her book and you say, oh, there's things that I need to learn from her. And I will now go and learn further. And that's the joy of the world we live in, this digital world, that you can learn about someone, you can read their books, then you can say, now I know exactly with whom I need to work. And that's an important thing for us all to know. So this has been great. I think we could talk for a very long time. And I hope that you'll come back in 6 months or so and we'll have another conversation. So thank you for being my guest.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. My guest, Dr. Marcia Reynolds at outsmartyourbrain.com. You can find me at transformingrelationship.com. If you want to get a little closer to my work, come and be a member at optimizecircles.com. Safely off social media, where it works just like social media. So it's completely on my website. It's completely safe for you to discuss the hard, difficult, and elusive things in life that would make things better. So I'm so glad you've been with me today on Emotional Savvy and heard Dr. Marcia Reynolds. I hope you will come back, bring a few friends if you heard things of value here. If you have a topic you'd like me to discuss, jump into my Facebook group, Optimize Life, and we can hear about that. And until then, be kind to yourself. You know that you are precious, and if you don't, I'm telling you, and live as though you matter, because you truly do. Talk soon. Thanks for being here for today's episode of Emotional Savvy. If you want to deepen your emotional savvy, make shifts in your relationships, and enjoy life and relationships more, work with me, Dr. Rhoberta Shaler. Get my books, enjoy my courses, or work with me directly. You can do that by visiting forrelationshiphelp.com, FOR relationshiphelp.com, and subscribe to Tips for Relationships now. Don't miss a thing. Be empowered this week with more emotional savvy.